My son threw a birthday bash for my grandson with 300 guests invited. When I showed up, the security guard stopped me and said, "Sorry, ma'am. This event is only for close family." I smiled calmly. One phone call was all it took. And every single guest was stunned. I'm glad you're here with me. Follow my story through to the end, and drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. There I was, gripping a small wrapped present tightly, watching 300 people flood into the grand ballroom, while a security guard stood firm, blocking my way like I was some kind of intruder. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being stopped from entering my own grandson's birthday celebration. "Sorry, ma'am, but this is family only," the guard said again, his tone polite but unwavering. His badge said Marcus, and he avoided meeting my eyes. Family only. Those words hit me harder than any slap ever could. I am family. I'm Cedric's grandmother, for heaven's sake. I've been in his life since the moment he was born 7 years ago. There must be some confusion, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm Bernice Caldwell. Cedric is my grandson. Marcus shifted awkwardly, glancing down at his clipboard. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're not on the guest list. The instructions were very clear on who was allowed in. Through the glass doors, I could see the extravagant setup, a giant bounce house shaped like a castle, tables covered in royal blue linen, balloons everywhere. This whole event probably cost more than most cars. My son Damon had clearly spared no expense for his boy's 7th birthday. Could you please check with my son? Damon Caldwell. He's the father, I asked. Marcus pulled out his radio. I'll need to confirm with Mrs. Caldwell first. Before he could speak, I heard heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Joy appeared at the entrance. Flawless, dressed in designer clothes, hair perfectly styled. At 32, she carried herself like someone who'd never faced a refusal. "Oh, Bernice," she said, voice thick with false surprise. "What are you doing here?" The question felt like a slap in the face. What am I doing here? I'm here to celebrate my grandson's birthday, just like I have every year since he was born, like any grandmother would. I'm here for Cedric's party, I whispered, holding out the gift. Joy's lips curved into what might have been a smile on anyone else, but on her, it looked predatory. "Oh, sweetie, didn't Damon tell you? We decided to keep it small this year. Immediate family only." I glanced past her, at the crowd inside. At least 300 people packed into that ballroom, coworkers, neighbors, strangers I'd never seen before. But somehow, I wasn't immediate family enough. "Jovie, please," I begged, my voice cracking. "I just want to see Cedric and wish him a happy birthday." "He's busy with his friends right now," she said, blocking the doorway. "Maybe next time we can do something smaller. More appropriate." The words echoed in my mind as I stood there clutching a gift meant for a child I wasn't allowed to see. This was my grandson. The boy I'd babysat countless times when Joy had her spa days or shopping trips. The child I rocked to sleep through his colicky nights, while she complained about the noise. "Where's Damon?" I asked, scanning the crowd desperately. "I need to speak to my son. He's in charge of the party." Joy smiled smoothly. "You know how these things are. So much to organize." Through the glass, I caught a glimpse of Cedric in his little suit, laughing as he darted between tables. He looked so happy, so full of life. A pain tightened my chest, a pain I hadn't felt since my husband died 5 years ago. The ache of being completely alone. "I'll just leave this for him," I said, holding the gift out to Marcus. It was a remote-controlled helicopter, something Cedric had been asking for. I'd saved up for months to get it. "That's very thoughtful," Joy said, but made no move to take it. "I'll make sure he gets it." The message was clear. I wasn't welcome here. In 5 minutes, I had gone from beloved grandmother to an unwelcome stranger. The woman who helped raise this child was treated like a nobody. I turned to leave, my legs heavy as lead. Behind me, Joy's cheerful voice floated through the room as she welcomed guests. Welcome, come in. Cedric's going to be so excited to see you. The parking lot felt like a desert as I walked toward my car. Other guests, dressed in their finest, chatted excitedly about the party I was banned from. A few nodded politely, most ignored me completely. I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at the gift on my lap. 7 years old. Cedric was 7, and I was missing his birthday because his mother decided I wasn't family enough. But as I sat there, something inside me shifted. The hurt was still raw and burning. But beneath it was something tougher, something that had been growing for months as I watched Joy's subtle manipulation, her constant demands, her way of making me feel like I'd never measure up. I pulled my phone from my purse and flipped through my contacts until I found the number I needed. My finger hovered for a moment before I pressed dial. Once I made this call, there was no turning back. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. First National Bank, this is Rebecca. How may I assist you? Rebecca, this is Bernice Caldwell. I need to discuss some accounts linked to my daughter-in-law. The party was still in full swing when I ended the call 20 minutes later. Through the car windows, I watched the celebration continue, hundreds of guests laughing and enjoying themselves while I sat alone in my vehicle. But I wasn't helpless. Not anymore. I started the engine and pulled away, leaving the gift on the passenger seat. Cedric would receive his present in time. But first, his mother was going to face the consequences she earned. Driving home from that humiliating encounter, my thoughts kept drifting back to how it all began. When did I become the enemy in my own family? When did loving my grandson become something wrong? The answer hit me as I pulled into my driveway. It all started the day Joy realized I had money. 8 years ago, when Damon first introduced her to me, I thought she was wonderful. Young, full of life, and Damon looked happier than I'd seen him since college. She worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic, not glamorous, but she had big dreams. I want to give Damon the life he deserves, she told me over coffee during one of our early meetings. He works so hard, and I just want to support him. Her ambition and devotion to my son charmed me. When they married 6 months later, I was overjoyed. Finally, Damon had someone who would care for him like his father, and I always had. The first request came during their honeymoon. They were in Bali when Joy called me, tears in her voice. Their rental car had broken down, and they needed money for repairs. $500, not a fortune, but enough to keep the trip enjoyable. I hate to ask, she sobbed, but we spent everything on the wedding, and we just want this time to be perfect. I transferred the money immediately. What grandmother wouldn't want her son's honeymoon to be flawless? Then came the apartment deposit. Then the furniture for their new home. Then Joy's student loans, which apparently caused her so much stress she couldn't sleep. It's hurting my health, she explained, hand dramatically pressed to her chest. The doctor says stress can affect fertility, and we want grandchildren so badly. That one got me. The promise of grandchildren dangled like a carrot in front of a lonely widow. I paid off $23,000 of her loans without hesitation. When Cedric arrived, I thought the requests would stop. We had our grandchild, the mission was complete. But pregnancy had been expensive, Joy said. The medical bills were overwhelming, even with insurance. I hate to ask again, she said, bouncing Cedric on her hip, but we're drowning here. The last thing we want is for money troubles to affect our son's environment. Another $12,000 for my grandson's well-being. The requests were so gradual, so carefully timed, I didn't realize the pattern at first. There was always a reason, always a crisis, always something threatening my son and grandson's happiness, and I was always the rescuer. Cedric's daycare was too costly. Could I help, just temporarily, until Joy found a better job? 2 years later, I was still covering $800 a month. Their apartment was too cramped for a growing family. The mortgage company wanted a co-signer with stronger credit. Could I help them secure the house they wanted? It was for Cedric, after all. He needed a yard to play in. I co-signed for a home that cost more than I ever dreamed of living in. When payments lagged, I made up the difference. When they needed new furniture, I helped. When the roof leaked, the car broke down, or Joy's mother got sick and needed money for treatment, I was always there. But it wasn't just the money. It was the way she asked for it, the tears, the desperate phone calls, the way she made me feel like I was the only one who could save my family from ruin. "You're such a blessing," she'd say, voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what we'd do without you. Cedric is so lucky to have a grandmother who cares so much." The praise felt good. After years of loneliness and feeling useless in retirement, suddenly I had purpose. I was needed. I was building a better life for my grandson. But somewhere along the way, the gratitude grew hollow. The emergencies became more frequent, more costly, and Joy's attitude toward me shifted. It started with small remarks. "You spoil him too much," she'd say when I brought Cedric toys. "We want him to learn the value of earning things." Then came criticisms of my parenting advice. "Things are different now," she'd say with a patronizing smile. "We have newer research on child development." Slowly, my babysitting duties were cut back. "We want to establish better routines," Joy explained. It wasn't personal, but it felt personal, especially when I saw her social media posts, out with friends while Cedric was at the expensive daycare I was paying for. 6 months ago, I began to notice something was off. Joy's spending habits had skyrocketed. Designer purses, pricey clothes, weekly trips to the salon. She joined an upscale gym, took up art lessons, and even bought a luxury vehicle. "Damon's doing really well at work," she explained whenever I mentioned her extravagant lifestyle. "We can finally afford some finer things." But I knew Damon's salary. I'd helped negotiate it when he got promoted. The numbers simply didn't add up. That's when I began quietly investigating, careful not to seem intrusive. What I uncovered chilled me to the bone. The money I'd been sending for Cedric's needs, daycare, clothes, activities, wasn't being used for those things at all. Joy was funneling it into a separate bank account, funding her increasingly lavish lifestyle. During my last visit, the receipts I found in her purse told the real story: spa visits, shopping sprees, expensive dinners with friends, all paid for with funds I sent, believing they were for my grandson. While I ate cheap cereal and clipped coupons, she was living like royalty off my generosity. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. I'd entrusted her with my money, my heart, my bond with my grandson, and she'd used all of it to build a life that clearly didn't include me. Sitting in my living room that night, staring at the empty gift box meant for an excited 7-year-old, I understood something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. For 8 years, I'd been played like a fiddle. Every tear, every emergency, every desperate call had been a calculated act designed to wring sympathy and money from a lonely older woman desperate to feel needed. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The cold, undeniable numbers stared back at me. Over the past 8 years, I'd sent Jovie and Damon more than $80,000, money from my husband's life insurance, my retirement savings, from years of sacrifice and careful budgeting. $80,000. And today, I wasn't even allowed to see my grandson. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number I'd memorized earlier that day. "Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell again. I need a detailed report of how much money has been transferred from my account to Joy Caldwell's personal account over the past year." As Rebecca pulled up the records, I felt a cold, sharp rush of righteous anger I hadn't known in years. Tomorrow, everyone at that party would learn who they were really celebrating. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. No more playing the victim. No more accepting crumbs from people who saw me as nothing but a walking checkbook. I spent the night combing through bank statements, receipts, and records. The evidence was damning. Rebecca, who had been more helpful than she probably should have been, was a friend I'd known for 15 years. She'd managed my husband's accounts, helped with his life insurance payout, and guided me through widowhood's financial maze. "I've never seen anything like this," she said softly over the phone. The pattern is crystal clear. Every deposit you made for Cedric's expenses was immediately shifted to her personal account. Not a penny went to actual childcare or children's items. The figures were staggering. In the last year alone, I'd sent $32,000 for emergencies related to my grandson, daycare fees never paid to the daycare, medical bills already covered by insurance, school supplies costing more than many people's rent. But Rebecca found something even worse. "Mrs. Caldwell, I ran a credit check on your daughter-in-law," she said. "She's been using your financial history as a reference for large purchases, luxury car loans, credit cards, even a loan for what looks like cosmetic surgery." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She listed you as her primary financial reference. The lenders approved her based on your assets and payment history. She's basically been living on credit backed by your reputation." I hung up feeling sick to my stomach. It wasn't just theft, it was identity fraud. She'd been using my financial standing to support a lifestyle impossible on her actual income. That morning, in my kitchen with coffee in hand, I dialed the number I dreaded calling. "Damon? It's Mom." There was a pause, then his voice returned, warmer, but cautious. "Hey, Mom. How are you? I'm calling about yesterday's party." Another pause. "Look, Mom. Sorry about the guest list confusion. Joy just wanted to keep things manageable. 300 people is a lot to coordinate." Confusion. That's what he called it. Damon, I wasn't confused. I was intentionally left out of my grandson's birthday party. "Mom, don't be dramatic. It wasn't personal. Then explain how your coworkers from 3 states away made the guest list, but your own mother didn't." Silence. I could almost hear him thinking, probably trying to find a way to spin this so his wife wouldn't look bad. "Joy thought it'd be better to have a separate celebration with you. Something smaller, more intimate." "When?" "What? When is this smaller, more intimate celebration supposed to happen?" More silence. We both knew there was never going to be another celebration. There hadn't been one all along. "We'll figure something out," he said at last. "Maybe next weekend." "Damon, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." "Mom, where is this coming from?" "Just answer the question." "I don't know. A few thousand, maybe. You helped with some of Cedric's expenses, and I appreciated that." "A few thousand?" I looked down at the bank statement spread out on my kitchen table. "Damon, I've sent you $32,000 in the past year alone." "That's impossible." "It's not just possible, it's all documented. Every wire transfer, every check, every deposit. $32,000 for daycare bills that were already paid, medical costs covered by insurance, and school supplies that apparently cost more than most people's cars." "Mom, I think you're confused about." "I'm not confused." The words came out sharper than I meant. "I'm not confused. I'm not dramatic, and I'm not imagining things. Your wife has been stealing from me for years. Don't talk about Joy like that." "Like what? Like a thief?" "Because that's what she is, Damon. She's been using money I sent for Cedric to pay for spa treatments, shopping sprees, and a luxury lifestyle. While I eat cheap cereal and clip coupons, she lives like a queen off my money." "You're being ridiculous." "Am I? When was the last time you saw a receipt for Cedric's daycare? When was the last time you paid for his clothes or activities?" "I'll tell you when." "Never. Because I've been footing all those bills. And none of it went where you think." I heard him take a deep breath. "Even if that's true, and I'm not saying it is, you gave that money willingly. Nobody forced you." His casual dismissal hit me like a blow. "You're right. No one forced me. I gave it because I love my grandson and wanted to help. But I never gave it so your wife could get breast implants and drive a BMW. Mom, you're out of line." "No, Damon. I'm finally seeing the line clearly. And your wife crossed it a long time ago. I hung up before he could say another word. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with rage. The fierce, freeing anger of someone who finally stopped confusing abuse for love. I glanced at the clock. The party was still going strong. All those guests, the celebration, all that money spent on a child whose own grandmother wasn't invited. I picked up my phone and dialed Rebecca's direct line. Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell. I need you to freeze every account connected to Joy Caldwell, joint accounts, credit lines, loans that use my financial history as collateral. Are you sure, Mrs. Caldwell? That's a serious step. I'm certain. And please flag her accounts for suspicious activity, large cash withdrawals, unusual spending, anything that might suggest fraud. I can do that. What about the accounts she shares with your son? I thought about Damon's easy dismissal, his unwillingness to even consider that his wife might be deceiving him. Freeze those too. If he's not part of the solution, he's part of the problem. Rebecca warned me there would be immediate consequences. Credit cards will be declined, loan payments flagged, automatic withdrawals rejected. Good. Maybe it's time they learn to live within their real means. After I hung up, I sat quietly in my kitchen. In just 24 hours, I'd gone from being the family's secret ATM to cutting off their financial lifeline completely. There would be fallout, angry calls, accusations, probably threats. But for the first time in years, I felt in control of my own life. I picked up the phone one more time and dialed the number I'd memorized from the party invitation. Fairmont Ballroom. This is Jessica. Jessica, this is Bernice Caldwell. I believe there's a children's birthday party happening in your main ballroom right now. Yes, ma'am. The Caldwell party. Are you calling about the event? I'm calling to inform you that the credit cards paying for that party are about to be declined. The accounts have been frozen due to suspected fraud. There was a pause. Ma'am, I don't understand. You will. Very soon, you'll get a call from a frantic woman named Joy Caldwell. When she tries to pay for the party, her cards won't work. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Should I be worried about the payment for the event? I thought about all the money I'd unknowingly poured into that lavish celebration, the one I wasn't even invited to. No, don't stress over payment. Just make sure she knows there are consequences for stealing from family. As I ended the call, a genuine smile spread across my face. Really smiled. For the first time in months, this party was about to take an interesting turn. I didn't have to wait long. My phone started ringing at 3:47 p.m., right around when the party should have been winding down. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. By the fifth call, I finally picked up. What did you do? Joy's voice was sharp, panic leaking from every word. I stopped funding your lies, I said calmly, sinking back into my favorite chair. You crazy old woman. Do you realize what you've done? The whole party saw my cards get declined. 300 people watched me humiliated at my own son's birthday. Interesting. I'd felt humiliated yesterday too. But you didn't seem to care much about that. This is totally different. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. The catering company is threatening to call the police. The event planner's holding my jewelry as collateral until we pay. I had to admire the dramatic flair. Even in crisis, Joy knew how to play the victim. Maybe you should have thought about that before stealing from me. I never stole from you. Everything you gave us was voluntary. Was it voluntary when you lied about where the money was going? Was it voluntary when you told me Cedric needed new school clothes while you were getting Botox? Silence. Then, trying very hard to sound reasonable. Bernice, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Why don't you come over and we can discuss this like adults? I'm not interested in talking, Joy. I'm interested in getting my money back. Your money? You gave it to help your grandson. And how much of it actually helped Cedric? How much went to his daycare, his clothes, his activities? I'll tell you, zero. Every penny went into your personal account so you could play dress up and pretend to be someone you're not. I heard her take a shaky breath. You're going to tear this family apart over money? I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just refusing to bankroll your fantasy life any longer. Damon won't stand for this. He'll never forgive you. What I've done is discover my daughter-in-law has been committing fraud for years. What I've done is learn the woman I trusted with my grandson's well-being has been stealing from me, and keeping me away from him. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Do you know what it's like trying to fit in with Damon's coworkers? Trying to make sure Cedric doesn't seem poor compared to his classmates? I did this for the family. You did this for yourself, and you got caught. Another long pause. When she spoke again, her tone was colder. You're making a mistake, Bernice. A very big mistake. Is that a threat? It's a warning. You think cutting us off will make everything go back to normal? You think Damon will choose you over his wife? You think you'll ever see Cedric again? Her words hit their mark, and she knew it. You can't keep me away from my grandson forever, can you? I've been doing it for months, and you never noticed. You think yesterday was the first time I kept you from him? My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Oh, Bernice. Sweet, naive Bernice. You think those cancelled playdates were accidents? You think Cedric just happened to be busy every time you wanted to visit? I've been erasing you from his life slowly, carefully, so you wouldn't see it, and it worked perfectly. You're lying, aren't you? When was the last time you spent time alone with Cedric? When was the last time he called you? When was the last time he asked about you? I couldn't answer. The truth was too painful to say. He doesn't even remember you properly anymore. Joy's voice grew stronger, feeding off my silence. To him, you're just the old lady who sends money sometimes. And now that the money's gone, what use are you? Damon won't let you do this. Damon does whatever I tell him, just like you did. The difference is, he won't wake up one day and realize he's been played. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, her words poisoning my mind. She was right about one thing, I had been played. But she was wrong about something else. I wasn't the same woman who'd been quietly writing checks and accepting crumbs of affection for years. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from Damon. We need to talk tonight. 7 p.m. Our house. Our house. The one I'd co-signed for. The one I helped furnish. The house where I was now clearly considered persona non grata. I typed back, I'll be there. At exactly 7 p.m., I stood on the porch of the home I'd helped buy, ringing the doorbell like a stranger. Damon opened the door, looking worn and weary, his usual self-assuredness nowhere in sight. Mom, what the hell is going on? Where's Joy? She's upstairs with Cedric. He's really upset about what happened at the party. I followed him inside to the living room, noticing how unfamiliar everything felt. The furniture was new and pricey. The art on the walls must have cost more than my monthly pension. Even the coffee table books were clearly chosen for show, not reading. Damon, before we start, you need to understand something. I didn't do this to hurt you or Cedric. I did it because your wife was robbing me blind. Those are serious accusations. They're not accusations, they're facts. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Bank statements, credit reports, receipts I found in Joy's purse. Every penny I'd given for Cedric's expenses had gone straight into her personal account. Not a single dollar went toward actual childcare or children's needs. Damon took the folder reluctantly, jaw clenched as he flipped through the papers. Even if this is true, Mom, you can't just freeze our accounts without warning. We have bills to pay. Responsibilities. You have responsibilities? What about my responsibility to protect myself from fraud? You're overreacting. Am I? Your wife just threatened to cut me off from my grandson forever. She admitted she's been manipulating his schedule for months to limit my time with him. Does that sound like someone thankful for my help? For the first time, Damon looked genuinely uncertain. She wouldn't do that, would she? When was the last time I babysat Cedric? When was the last time he came to my house? When was the last time we had any relationship besides me sending money? Damon was silent for a long moment, papers resting on his lap. The party was important to her. She planned it for months, with my money. Money she told me was for Cedric's needs. She's a good mother. She's a good actress. There's a difference. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted us. Joy appeared in the doorway, her earlier panic replaced by cold calculation. She'd changed into something more conservative, her makeup muted. She looked like a concerned mother and wife, not the frantic woman who'd yelled at me on the phone. "Hello, Bernice," she said softly. "I'm glad you came. I think we need to clear the air." "I think we need to clear the accounts," I replied. "Starting with you paying back the money you stole." "I didn't steal anything. You gave that money freely." "I gave it under false pretenses." "That's fraud." Joy sat down next to Damon, placing a protective hand on his arm. "Bernice, I know you're upset, but accusing me of fraud is too far." "Is it? Then explain how $32,000 in childcare costs ended up paying for your spa visits and shopping sprees." "I did use some of the money on myself, yes, but it was to maintain an image for Damon's career. Image matters in his field." "Image matters?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean the image of a woman who can afford luxury cars and designer clothes on a middle manager's salary?" "I was trying to help the family move up." "You were helping yourself, with my money." Damon looked between us, struggling with what he was hearing. "Joy, is this true?" "It's more complicated than she says." "It's not complicated at all," I said firmly. "She lied to you. She lied to me. And she stole from both of us. Now it's up to you what happens next." The silence that followed was heavy. I could see the moment Damon realized everything I said was true, his perfect wife living a lie funded by his mother's retirement savings. "How much?" he asked quietly. $87,000 over 8 years, I answered, including money she borrowed against my credit and assets without my knowledge. Joy stood up suddenly. "You can't prove any of that." "I can prove all of it. The bank has records of everything, including loan applications where you listed me as your main financial support." For the first time, Joy looked truly cornered. Her mask slipping, revealing desperation underneath. "Cedric needs stability," she said, voice rising. "He needs a mother who isn't stressed about money. A family that looks successful. I did this for him." "You did this for yourself," I said, standing up. "And now it's over." As I moved toward the door, I heard Joy's voice behind me, sharp and desperate. "You'll never see him again. I'll make sure of it." I didn't turn around. "We'll see about that." I had one more call to make when I got home. This time, not to the bank, to my lawyer. My attorney, Patricia Rise, had handled family legal matters for 30 years. She'd helped me settle my husband's estate, navigate widowhood, and now she was about to help me reclaim my life from a woman who'd been quietly destroying it. "This is extensive," Patricia said, reviewing the documents I brought. "Financial fraud, identity theft, possible elder abuse. Your daughter-in-law's been busy. Can we get my money back?" "We can try. But more importantly, we can ensure she faces consequences for what she's done. This isn't just about money anymore, Bernice. It's about asserting your rights as a grandmother and protecting you from further harm." All night, I'd been turning over Joy's threats in my mind, her admission that she'd been keeping me from Cedric for months, her promise that I'd never see him again. The cruelty of it was staggering. She'd threatened to sever my access to my grandson completely. But she can't do that, not without legal cause. Grandparents have rights. Especially when there's proof of parental wrongdoing. And trust me, financial fraud definitely counts as wrongdoing. Patricia leaned back in her chair, eyes sharp and calculating. But Bernice, I have to ask, are you ready for how this will affect your relationship with your son? This isn't just about Joy. It's going to affect Damon, too. I'd been wrestling with that question all night. Damon had already chosen to side with his wife, even in the face of undeniable evidence. He'd dismissed my concerns, downplayed my hurt, and made me feel like the problem. My relationship with Damon is already strained, I said quietly. Maybe it's time he learned that enabling his wife's actions comes with consequences. All right then. Let's begin with a formal demand letter, full repayment of the fraudulent charges, plus interest and legal costs. If she refuses, we pursue criminal charges. How long will this take? That depends on how clever she is. If she's smart, she'll settle quickly and quietly. If not, Patricia smiled grimly. Fraud cases often attract plenty of media attention, especially when grandparents are being exploited by their own family. I left Patricia's office feeling more hopeful than I had in months. For the first time in years, I had someone who truly understood that what had happened wasn't just unfortunate, it was criminal. The letter was delivered to Damon and Joy's home the very next morning. By noon, my phone rang. Mom, what the hell is this? Damon's voice was tense, tired. It's a demand for repayment. Your wife stole from me, and I want my money back. She didn't steal anything. You gave that money willingly. I gave it under false pretenses, that's fraud, Damon. And if you can't see that, you're part of the problem. You're tearing our family apart over money. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm protecting myself from people who see me as nothing more than a wallet. That's unfair. Joy loves you. Joy loves my bank account. There's a difference. Muffled voices whispered in the background, then Joy's voice came through the line. Bernice, this is spiraling out of control. We need to sit down and work this out like a family. We tried that yesterday. You threatened to keep me away from my grandson forever. That's not family. I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. You meant every word, just like when you systematically erased me from Cedric's life while taking my money. I never tried to keep you from Cedric. Then explain why every playdate was cancelled, every visit postponed, why I haven't spent time alone with my grandson in 6 months. Silence. Then, a voice strained to sound reasonable. Bernice, I think you're remembering things wrong. Am I? Then let me talk to Cedric now. Put him on the phone. He's at school. It's Saturday. Another pause. He's at a friend's house. What friend? You don't know him? I'd like to know him. I want to know all of Cedric's friends. I want to be part of his life like grandmothers should be. You are part of his life. When? When I write checks? When I solve your financial emergencies? When do I get to be a grandmother instead of a bank? You're being unreasonable. I'm being realistic. And here's more reality, you have 72 hours to respond to my lawyer's letter. If you don't, we file criminal charges. You wouldn't dare. I hung up and sat quietly at home, feeling oddly calm. The die was cast. There was no turning back now. The next call surprised me. Damon's older sister, Michelle. She lived in Portland and rarely got involved in family conflicts, but this was serious enough to pull her in. Bernice, what's going on? Damon called me hysterical, something about lawsuits and money? I explained everything calmly, the evidence, the lies, the way I'd been cut out of my grandson's life. I had no idea it was this bad, Michelle said when I finished. I knew Joy was demanding, but this. Did you know she was keeping me away from Cedric? I wondered why you never mentioned him in our calls. I thought maybe you were busy. I thought I was being slowly pushed aside because I wasn't useful anymore. Turns out, I was being pushed aside while still being useful. What do you need from me? Her question caught me off guard. I'm not sure. I guess I just need someone to understand I'm not the villain here. You're not the villain. You're the victim. It's about time someone stood up for you. Damon thinks I'm tearing the family apart. He thinks whatever Joy tells him to think. Always has. I don't want to lose my son. You already have, Bernice. But maybe this way, you'll get your grandson back. That evening, I was cooking dinner when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw Damon's car. He was alone. I opened the door before he could knock. We need to talk, he said without any introduction. Come in. He glanced around my modest living room as if seeing it for the very first time, the simple furniture, the carefully chosen decorations, the signs of a modest but steady income. It was a far cry from the home I'd helped him purchase, the lifestyle I'd helped him uphold. I found the receipts, he said quietly. What receipts? The ones Joy tried to hide, spa visits, shopping sprees, all that other stuff. I found them in her car. I sank into my chair slowly. How much? Thousands. Tens of thousands. All on credit cards. I didn't even know she had credit cards secured by my assets. He nodded, looking defeated. She said she was building our credit. Said it was just temporary. Nothing about Joy is temporary. She's been plotting this for years. I confronted her, about the money, about shutting you out of Cedric's life. She didn't deny a thing. What did she say? That you were too controlling, too involved. She claimed she was protecting our family from your interference, and you believed her. I wanted to believe her. It was easier than admitting my wife had been lying to me all this time. Damon dropped into a chair, his head in his hands. I've been such an idiot. Yes, you have. But you're not alone. She fooled me too. What do I do now? You decide what kind of man you want to be. Do you want to be the man who enables his wife's criminal acts, or the man who shields his family from predators? She's not a predator. She's confused, under pressure. She's a predator, Damon. She targeted a lonely widow and methodically exploited her love for her grandson. Not out of desperation, but because she could. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, they're all paid for with your money. Yes, they are. What happens next? Now you choose. You can keep pretending what she did was acceptable, or you can help me make sure it never happens again. If I help you, she'll leave me. She'll take Cedric. If you don't help me, you'll lose both of us anyway. But if you do the right thing, maybe you'll earn some respect back, from me and eventually from your son. Damon was silent for a long moment. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across my small yard. I need time to think, he finally said. You have 72 hours. After that, the lawyers step in. He stood to leave, then turned back. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have seen it coming. I should have protected you. Yes, you should have. But you didn't. The question now is, what are you going to do? After he left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the tangible proof of a life I'd built slowly and deliberately on my own terms. Tomorrow, I would either reclaim my family or lose them forever. But one thing was certain, I would never be anyone's victim again. 3 months later, I was sitting in my garden, watching my grandson play with the remote-controlled helicopter I'd bought him, the very same one I'd brought to his birthday party, the party I'd been banned from attending. Grandma Bernice, look how high it goes. Cedric called out, his face glowing with excitement. Be careful not to fly it too close to the trees, I called back, smiling at the pure joy shining from him. The road to this moment hadn't been smooth. After my talk with Damon, things got worse before they got better. Joy fought the restitution demand fiercely, with tears, threats, manipulation, and finally desperate legal moves that only made her guilt more obvious. She tried to portray me as a spiteful old woman who couldn't accept her son moving on. She claimed I was fabricating the financial abuse, that I suffered memory loss, that I was jealous of her relationship with Damon. But Patricia was right. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements don't lie, and credit applications don't forge themselves. Faced with possible criminal charges, Joy finally agreed to a settlement. The terms were thorough: full repayment of the $87,000, plus interest and legal fees, complete severance of financial ties between us, and most importantly, a legally binding agreement ensuring my access to Cedric. But the true victory wasn't about money. It had been a relief to see Damon finally recognize his wife for who she really was. The divorce was finalized last month. Joy fought hard for custody, but her financial crimes made her case unwinnable. She was granted supervised visitation and ordered to pay child support, a bitter irony, considering she'd never supported anyone financially before. She moved back to her mother's place in Ohio, Damon told me during one of our weekly dinners. She's working at a call center now, living in a tiny studio apartment. Reality's a far cry from the fantasy she built with your money. I felt a flicker of pity for her, but only for a moment. She made her choices and now she was paying the price. How's Cedric handling it? I asked. Better than I expected. He misses her, but he's happier, calmer. Like he can finally breathe. I understood exactly what he meant. Kids pick up on tension, even when adults think they're hiding it. Cedric had been living in a house built on lies, funded by stolen money, sustained by manipulation. Now, he lived in a smaller home with fewer luxuries, but with honesty. "Grandma, can we make cookies now?" Cedric asked, running up to where I sat on the porch swing. "Of course, sweetie. What kind do you want?" "Chocolate chip, with extra chips." I laughed, thinking back to all the times Joy had criticized my unhealthy treats, accusing me of undermining their parenting with my indulgences. Now, I could spoil my grandson properly, the way grandmothers are meant to. In the kitchen, as we measured flour and sugar, Cedric talked about school, his friends, and summer plans. He was different, more open, more trusting. The guarded reserve he'd developed over the past year had melted away. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Of course, honey." "Why did Mommy go away?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. Damon and I had agreed to keep things simple and age-appropriate, shielding Cedric from the harsher truths about his mother's behavior. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, sweetheart. Your mommy made some mistakes that hurt people, and now she has to face the consequences." "Did she hurt you?" "Yes, she did. But that's not your fault. And it doesn't change how much I love you. I'm glad you're here more now." "Me too, baby. Me too." That evening, after Damon picked up Cedric, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and pink hues. My phone buzzed, a text from Michelle. "Saw the pictures of you and Cedric baking. You both look so happy. I'm proud of you for fighting for him." I smiled and typed back, "Best decision I ever made." It was true. Standing up to Joy had been terrifying, but it had restored my life. I was no longer defined by how much money I could provide or how many problems I could solve. I was valued for who I was, a grandmother who loved her grandson, a mother who deserved respect, a woman who wouldn't be taken advantage of anymore. The financial settlement allowed me to rebuild my retirement savings, but more importantly, it taught me something about my own worth. I wasn't just a funding source for other people's dreams. I was a person, with needs, boundaries, and a right to dignity. Damon and I were still healing our relationship. The process was slow and sometimes painful, but honest in a way it hadn't been for years. He had to face his role in enabling Joy's behavior, his willingness to look the other way when it suited him. "I keep thinking about all the signs I ignored," he told me once. "The way she always had an excuse for everything. How she made you feel guilty for doubting her. I should have seen it." "She was very good at what she did," I said. "She made it easy for us to believe what we wanted to believe. But you figured it out. You stood up to her." I got tired of being treated like a checkbook instead of a person. Took me too long, but I finally got tired. Now, 3 months later, I was planning a real birthday party for Cedric's 8th birthday. Nothing like the extravagant 300-guest event that had started this whole mess, just something warm, simple, and genuine. A backyard barbecue with his school friends, homemade decorations, and a grandmother who was actually invited. "I want to help plan it," Damon said when I mentioned the party. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I want this one to be about Cedric, for celebrating him, not about impressing anyone. A party where everyone who loves him is welcome." I smiled. That sounded just right. As I finished my wine and got ready to head inside, my thoughts drifted to the woman I'd been a year ago, lonely, manipulated, clinging to any scraps of affection from a family that valued her only for what she could provide, not for who she was. That woman was gone. Now, I was someone who knew her worth and demanded to be treated with respect. My phone rang, breaking my reverie. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello, is this Bernice Caldwell?" The voice was young, female, hesitant. "Yes. My name is Sarah Martinez. I got your number from a mutual friend. I think my daughter-in-law is doing to me what yours did to you." I sat back down, my heart reaching out to this stranger, probably sitting in her own kitchen surrounded by bank statements and receipts, wondering if she was losing her mind. "Tell me what's going on," I said softly. For the next hour, I listened to Sarah's story, the slow creep of money requests, the elaborate excuses, the steady exclusion from her grandchildren's lives. It was painfully familiar. "I don't know what to do," she said at last, voice trembling. "I love my son, but I can't keep living like this." "You don't have to," I assured her. "You have options. Rights. And more strength than you realize." "How do I even begin?" "Start by documenting everything. Every transaction, every request, every lie. Then call a lawyer." "I'm scared." I was scared, too. But you know what? I was more afraid of living the rest of my life as someone's victim. We talked for another half hour, and by the time we said goodbye, Sarah sounded stronger, more determined. I gave her Patricia's number and made her promise to call first thing Monday morning. After hanging up, I realized something had shifted inside me. I was no longer just someone who had survived being exploited by a manipulative family member. I was someone who could help others survive, too. 6 months later, I sat in Patricia's office with 3 other women, all victims of family financial abuse. We'd formed a support group, sharing resources and advice on handling the legal and emotional fallout. "The hardest part," said Margaret, whose son-in-law had stolen from her for 5 years, "is accepting that people you love can see you as nothing more than a wallet." "But the most empowering part," added Ruth, whose daughter forged her signature on checks, "is realizing you don't have to accept that." I nodded, thinking how far I'd come since that humiliating day outside Cedric's birthday party. What saved me was realizing I deserved better, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm human. And now? I have my grandson back. I have my self-respect back. And I have the knowledge that I'll never be anyone's victim again. That afternoon, I picked Cedric up from school and took him to the park. As he laughed on the swings with his friends, a deep peace settled over me. This was what I'd been fighting for, not just access to my grandson, but the right to be part of his life on my terms. "Grandma, push me higher," he called out. "Hold on tight." I called back, giving him a gentle push that sent him flying through the air, fearless and joyful. I smiled. We were both finally free. Now I'm curious about you, whoever's listening to my story. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Have you ever faced something like this? Share your thoughts below. And before you go, I'm leaving 2 other stories on the final screen, favorites from the channel that will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching all the way through.